morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters for Anfield Index even. It's a bit later than normal, which is probably what's throwing me off more than anything, but just under 24 hours post Liverpool's victory in Paris, I think I've only just stopped laughing at the whole situation, the result, how everything unfolded. But here we are to talk about it and many other things. I'm joined as ever by the renowned and the respected David Lynch. I mean, I'll be honest, I just can't stop laughing, David. How is it for you as a journalist that's got to seriously analyse all this?
Yeah, it is quite funny. I mean, it's one of those games, probably not ever funny when it happens to you, and you've seen so many of those down the years. I mean, usually that's kind of, relegation fodder in the Premier League, coming up against the top side, and then they just hang in there and somehow take the one chance. But you're not really used to kind of this happening in Liverpool games, to be honest. I mean, for a long time, they've not been particularly prone to those sort of performances as in receiving them. And I'm really struggling to remember off the top of my head the last time Liverpool themselves ever did this. Just got completely annihilated for 89 minutes and then popped up with the winner. It's so rare. And like I say, I'd love people in the comments maybe to suggest ones where Liverpool have come close to doing this before, because I just can't think of any. So very, very rare circumstances. And yeah, it's almost like the best kind of win, really, isn't it? You're now discovering, because you just feel like you didn't deserve it at all. And I got to the point where it gets late in the match, so I'm writing my tweet or social media post to go out on full time, summing it up, and I was very kind of positive about the fact that they got a goalless draw because they basically hadn't deserved it.
Yeah.
And saying that the upside there is they're taking a goalless draw back to Anfield. They can win it there. They'll probably play better. And then what you actually get is the win and to take an aggregate lead back, where again you think they'll play better in the second leg. It's just absolutely magic for Liverpool. Just as good a result as you could ever get, really. So really strange one. Can't remember Liverpool doing that before, but it was a massive win.
You maybe have to reach for some of them aside from Alisson, but there are some positives. So we'll try and lift the mood a little bit. I mean, the scoreline obviously takes care of itself, but did you notice and we'll talk about the changes a little bit separately, but just the story of the match? I mean, battered for 45 minutes. How the hell it was 0-0 at half time, I don't think anyone really knew. But the second half, it's not like we took over. They were still on top largely, but there was some improvement, wasn't there?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it kind of went under the radar a little bit, really, in the immediate reaction to the match, that they were much better in the second half. I mean, I put a post out about that, actually. It's kind of saying that I think PSG have 15 shots in that second half, and they only generate 0.41 expected goals from them. So really, really low quality opportunities in that second half. And yes, they're still dominating possession, and Liverpool weren't doing enough in transition to really harm them up until that very last moment. But it was a much improved second half performance in terms of the defensive aspect. And that still meant that Alisson had to pull off a couple of world-class saves, because PSG have got world-class players who can hurt you from shooting outside the box anyway, even if you give them an inch. But it was, the structure was much better. And if both halves had kind of been like that, a 0-0 or Liverpool nicking it wouldn't have felt as much as a robbery. It was just that first half was so one-way traffic, really. But again, tactical tweaks, little changes that the manager made improved Liverpool, and we really saw that in the second half. And I think it was a little bit of kind of Luis Diaz effectively ended up playing left back for most of it, really helped out. But they really contained PSG better in that second half, and Alisson, when he was called upon, delivered the goods.
I mean, talk about delivering the goods. We are going to talk about Alisson very shortly and wax lyrical. There was just a really good comment, or a really good part of the interview with Arne Slot that is just worth playing for you, everyone, about Alisson specifically after the game. Let's just have a listen to this one.
It's our quality that we have Alisson that saves them all.
Just give us some sort of perspective on that performance then from your goalkeepers. And I asked Ibu whether it was the best he'd ever seen from a keeper. Your experience in football is a little greater than Ibu's. What do you think?
It was an incredible performance from a goalkeeper that I've managed, but that's quite normal because I'm now managing the best goalkeeper in the world. So then sometimes, if needed, he needs to show as well that he's the best goalkeeper in the world.
I mean, just literally, you think about some of the saves he makes. The one low down Konate, a couple from the free kicks from him as well. Doué, I mean, one-on-ones. I actually can't think of a better goalkeeping performance that I've seen. And someone, again, might correct us in the chat panel, but this was just outstanding, wasn't it?
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, I certainly can't think of obviously watched Liverpool more intently than any other club throughout our lives. And I can't think of a better Liverpool goalkeeping performance than that, really. It was just unbeatable. And it's just every facet of the game, really. I mean, some of them outstanding saves, as you say. I mean, the first half, they were getting into good shooting positions. So big one-on-ones where he's got to be good. He's got to scrap out to get the follow-ups as well. And he's doing really well with that. Just looked kind of unbeatable in that period. And then in the second half, like I said, some of those were long distance strikes, but they were brilliant efforts and they still needed saving. I mean, the strength of the hand to tip that free kick round the corner, the one from Doué is out of this world, possibly. I was going to say possibly the best, actually, but I think the best for me was maybe the one first half from Kvaratskhelia, which gets a little bit of a nick on it off Konate. So changes the direction a little bit and he still gets there and palms it out. So just a phenomenal performance. And I think what I loved on top of that as well is kind of the claims of really dangerous crosses and the fact that there was some of the moments where the ball, whether it be a cross or whether it be a shot that's taken a nick or anything, they're kind of bouncing right in front of him, and that is so dangerous for a goalkeeper. If he either grasps it or if he can't and he knows that's too risky, getting something on the ball to just completely clear it from the danger zone. And he was getting real clearances on the ball with his arms, which is, incredible strength and just shows how smart a goalkeeper he is as well as a good one. So, I mean, clear man of the match for Liverpool. And, it's been a little bit of a strange season for him, actually, a little bit up and down. But I think yesterday he kind of reminded everybody that he is the best goalkeeper in the world when he's at it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And as Red Armchair supporter said, Courtois would have been proud of that. Better than the Courtois for me in that final that time. And I mean, speaking of goalkeepers, things come down to fine margins. Is the tail of the game ultimately down to Alisson just performs maybe the best ever goalkeeper performance we can recollect, and Donnarumma gets a good hand on Elliott's shot and doesn't keep it out? Is that just the difference between the world's best and very, very good?
Yeah, absolutely. This is it. I mean, we're probably being a little bit harsh on Donnarumma there because it's still a difficult save. It's, fairly close to the corner, but you just expect, and we would expect, because we see Alisson every week in, week out, that if the ball is going there, then the keeper's tipping it around the post. That's just kind of basics to us for what, because we are blessed to watch Alisson. So to see him get something and get down there and not be able to keep it out. And he had nothing to do all game. That is the first shot on target he faced, and he managed to let it in. So, it must be incredibly frustrating. And you just know if that shot had been placed there by any of the PSG attackers, then Alisson he's maybe catching it and keeping hold of it, never mind tipping it around the post, given the form he was in. So, that kind of underlined the difference between the two, really.
Yeah, so starts. And Steve Cody there saying, let's hope we can keep hold of these world-class players for next season. David Substack, we might have to talk about that, Steve, as well as we lead into it later. But I do want to talk about the subs because they had such an impact. But I do just want to play a clip from Harvey Elliott's interview last night because it is right we give him some flowers and talk about him specifically.
There was talks amongst the bench of, just us defending with our lives and, hoping we get one chance. We already knew that it was going to be a really tough game because of the quality that they have, especially here at this stadium. But I think it just showed the resilience of us as a team and as a club, to fight to the very end. And, I think we got our reward in the end.
The manager's just said to us, you have every right to be frustrated. You've not had as many minutes as perhaps you deserve. For you, is it a case of channeling any frustration and saying, I'm going to make every minute I get on the pitch count?
I mean, we've talked about Harvey Elliott and his distinct lack of minutes, and you could see his face told the story itself there. But in his last 3 Champions League games, he scored still on the big occasion when they might need him. He does really offer something, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a brilliant young player, and I think that's why it is frustrating that he hasn't been used as much as, you know, I think not just he would have liked, but I would have liked. I like watching him, and I think he's a big talent who I don't want Liverpool to lose, and I think he does deserve to get on the pitch more. He was unlucky with the timing of his injury that he picked up, obviously, and that really disrupted the start of his season. And then since then, I think he's been a little bit unlucky that, you know, Slot has felt that, look, we've got an opportunity to win the Premier League here. Let's try and get our best 11 on the pitch as frequently as possible. And he's also learning about the league as well. I think he'll have a better idea next season of where he can make those little changes and where a Harvey Elliott would absolutely be okay to come in. So maybe that is part of it. I really like to think that change is going to come because, like you say, you know, he's managed to get those Champions League goals despite barely featuring this season. You know, he's big involved in the Brentford winner, wasn't he? Or winners, if you want to call it that, for the 2-0 win there. And I think generally when he's been on the pitch, he's been really good. So I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of him this season. And I do hope that next season there is a bit of scope for that to happen because he's in an interesting position this summer. 2 years remaining on his contract, barely played this season. You know, I'm not saying that means he's going to leave, but at the very least, there's a big conversation to be had over the summer. Yeah. I'm absolutely fascinated to see how that conversation goes, really. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. And I would hope that there are more minutes for him next season. You know, I'd hope there are more minutes between now and the end of the season, to be honest. But we'll have to see about that. But he's a fantastic young player, still only 21 years old, got all that experience, all that quality. And be a real shame if Liverpool were to kind of lose him because I just think he's easily good enough for this level and he's going to get even better.
And the match winner last night as well. And another player who came off the bench, and I know we've talked about Darwin Nunez at length, so probably contrasting fortunes for what we'd expect in the summer. But in Darwin's defence, would you have expected of all players that late in the game, in a Champions League knockout game, Darwin Nunez to be the most composed, bring it down, and to play that sort of pass? You probably wouldn't have had money on it, would you?
No, but do you know what? It comes back, and I mention this all the time, but we've spoken about it so frequently, and I do think it's the big thing around Darwin is that he's going to go in the summer. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but it's what can you do in the meantime? How big a part can you play in Liverpool getting trophies? Can you be important and helpful? And I mean, it doesn't get better again than what he did last night. Is, you know, the game was crying out for him for ages. I wouldn't have minded seeing him come on even a little earlier because I think Jota was just getting eaten up in those 1v1 physical duels, wasn't he? He's not that sort of player. I think Jota, for me, not, you know, to start one of your tougher away games of the season, it doesn't really suit him. He's a finisher. He's not somebody who gets you up the pitch, and so he was struggling all night, really. And what, you know, football is quite simple. I mean, Darwin Nunez is not as good a footballer as Diogo Jota. He's not as good a finisher. His movement isn't as good, but he has physical qualities and they are worth an awful lot. I mean, you know, it doesn't matter the fact he's not quite as good as Jota when the ball is getting launched by the keeper towards you and he immediately makes Marquinhos feel uncomfortable. You know, there's that one he almost gets on the end of, isn't there, with where he kind of kicks into Donnarumma and Donnarumma's not happy about it. But that immediately shows just having someone who's strong and quick up there and tall, what that can do for you. And then around the goal, it is, you know, it's a hit and hope. It's a great pass, I guess, from Alisson. It's in the right spot, but you know, it takes a lot of work to turn that into something. But he does. He gets his shoulder into Marquinhos. Marquinhos can't get a clear header, and then it comes down, and you can kind of play from there, and that's what it's all about. And it just reminded me of kind of Liverpool's failure to clear the lines against Everton, for example. There's not a lot you can do when the player you're up against is bigger and stronger than you, and Darwin just caused that problem. And then what he did from there, which is the thing, you know, you're not used to seeing from him, is control, composure, getting the ball, not just cracking a shot away, but seeing that pass was on and Harvey Elliott busting along to get there, and then perfect weight on it for him to run onto it and finish. So absolutely fantastic from Nunez to do that. Smart to bring him on, and I think it made Liverpool a much better team when he was on the pitch. And again, let's see more of these moments between now and the end of the season, if that is going to be, as we expect, the end of his Liverpool career.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of credit for that last night. And the two midfielders, it's important to mention them that came on in different ways. Endo just for the physicality and the ability to close things down, win challenges. Curtis Jones, almost when he came on, it was like, hold on, we can actually keep the ball for more than 3 passes as well. They made a big difference in that period.
Yeah, I wonder whether Jones in particular kind of made Slot think, I wish I'd gone with the setup against City, because again, that seemed like a possibility, didn't it, that he would do that. So I wonder if he'd wished that he'd done that, really, because it kind of, it's hard to say because it was obviously a good sub and it worked, but also were PSG tiring a little bit as well. So that kind of allowed Liverpool to get a bit more of a foothold. It's kind of hard and you don't want to go too far in on the narratives, but he definitely brought more control. And I thought it's interesting, Endo and Jones, between them, I think they make 18 pass attempts and complete 17 of them. So they're keeping the ball. They're allowing Liverpool to have a little bit of possession, which they were really struggling for in the game. And then they get stuck in and they win the challenges. And, Jones in there winning around 50% of his duels. I think Endo, a couple of great blocks and moments like that. So making, being combative in there, which PSG had been, and keeping possession, which PSG had done prior to that. So it just gave Liverpool a little bit more of a foothold. And, it's no coincidence that, Endo at the end makes a big block to stop a low ball coming in that could have caused havoc. Curtis Jones scrapping to get the ball leads to the throw in that leads to the goal. That's what you want. You want that fight in there. And, all these substitution appearances and their contribution, I wonder, Jones in particular, I guess, has it given Slot a little bit of food for thought around the second leg, really, about what his lineup will look like and how he kind of sets things up. I do wonder about that. But I thought, in terms of all them substitutes, brilliant from them to make such a big contribution coming off the bench, but also brilliant from Slot to identify that was exactly what he needed to turn the game in Liverpool's favour.
Yeah, you've got to give credit to all parties. Seth F there saying, Harvey timed his run perfectly. Both Harvey and Darwin slowed it down when everyone else was speeding their passes up. Yeah, who'd have thought, Seth, Darwin Nunez would be the epitome of calm in the right moment as well. But there they are. And the only other sort of big thing that I wanted to talk about, TNT, I'm sure you heard, we're just waxing lyrical about this, about how Ibrahima Konate was himself guilty of this Paris heist and it should have been a red card, literally. Even when the VAR call that was delayed, you just started to wonder, did you see anything in this in terms of, was it a barge, shoulder to shoulder? How did you see it?
Yeah, I mean, you know me, I kind of, I try not to have the kind of red tinted specs on when talking about decisions, but I genuinely mean this. I was quite surprised that the commentators, which was obviously Rio Ferdinand and Ali McCoy, were so convinced that this was a red card. I kind of watched it and I thought, he's taking a little bit of a risk there, but it's shoulder, Barcola slows up, the ball's bouncing. It's a little bit of a kind of overly physical coming together, but I didn't think there was absolutely loads in it. So I was surprised they were so kind of clear cut about it. I think what I can say is that if it'd been given on the field, I don't think you get an overturn. But I also think it's short of the kind of bar for an overturn because Konate doesn't extend his arm. There's no kind of real push motion. He's trying to get a shoulder around, isn't he? It's a little bit clumsy. I wouldn't like to see him try that one again, to be honest. But I didn't by any means think it was kind of, wow, 100% red card. Can't believe that they've not overturned it. But they seemed really convinced about it, which, yeah, as I say, kind of surprised me a little bit, to be honest. But yeah, for me, it was just kind of one of those that's maybe on the line, and you're basically quite reliant on what the referee's call is going to be in that situation. And yeah, fortunately for Liverpool, it went in their favour, but quite a lot did throughout the game, to be honest.
Yeah, it does seem luck has been in Liverpool's favour a bit this season, but they make your own luck, as we say, and Liverpool go into this tie, the second leg coming up, with a 1-goal advantage.